My name is Daliana Meredith. I am currently a freshman, class of 2028, and I am majoring in biology. And today I will be presenting the Piano Sonata in C sharp minor, opening 27, number 2, Moonlight, and specifically the first movement of this piece by Beethoven. So let's get started. This piece was released in 1801. The movement is Aliago sostenuto, modified song form C sharp minor. The melody is delicate and it moves slowly throughout the piece. So there's going to be a lot of kind of drawn out moments throughout the piece that you're going to hear later on. And there's various ranges heard. The rhythm is slow duple melody and arpeggiated pattern. The harmony is expressive minor key. The texture is mostly homophonic throughout the piece, and the form is ternary modified song form. So, and then getting into a little bit of the history behind Moonlight Sonata. So this was written when Beethoven was 30, kind of like in the middle of his career, and the Moonlight Sonata was pretty revolutionary kind of for its time, as Beethoven was known more for his classical pieces, and while the Moonlight Sonata is classical throughout, there are some more romantic elements and aspects to it that I'll talk about later. Yeah, and so it was really originally known as Sonata Opening 27, number 2, but it kind of gained its name a couple years after Beethoven passed, and I'll be speaking about that in a little bit. And yeah, it's kind of known, the Moonlight Sonata is known to be one of the most well known or one of the most popular of Beethoven's work, or out of the 32 piano sonatas that he wrote. So the meaning behind the name Moonlight Sonata, shortly after Beethoven passed, Ludwig Rellstab, a German poet and music critic, named the piece Moonlight Sonata in 1832 because it reminded him of the Moonlight Lake Lucerne in Switzerland, and here I provided a picture of the lake. So he basically gave the Moonlight Sonata the name based off the lake, and I guess kind of his feelings towards the lake. And so, okay, so specifically the first movement. So as I said earlier, it is known as Aliago sostenuto, meaning that it's slow and sustained. And you can really hear this throughout the first piece, as there's lots of moments that are kind of drawn out and just have a really soft and slow kind of sound to them. And they kind of invoke this romantic feeling, kind of a longing, yearning feeling. So it really gives those romantic elements and aspects to the classical piece. Sorry. And there's a subtle shift in dynamics as well throughout the piece that you're going to be able to hear, which also kind of plays into the longing feeling, like I said earlier. So yeah, it's just Beethoven kind of played into this romantic twist. And yeah, so that's what the first movement is kind of known for. And this song, or this piece, was dedicated to a woman that Beethoven was presumably in love with. So yeah, so her name is Countess Julie Guasciardi, but she's kind of known as Giulietta, but that's mostly because when the piece was published, the dedication page was in Italian, and they incorrectly put her name down as Giulietta instead of Julie, which was her actual name. So now she's kind of always been known as Giulietta Guasciardi instead of Julie, which is her actual name. But yeah, she was Beethoven's young pupil at the time. She was about 17 to 18 years old, and he was in his mid-30s, I believe, so significantly older than her. And it was presumed that they were kind of in love at the time, but she didn't end up marrying him. She ended up marrying another man because it's we assume that like one of her parents didn't kind of like agree with their relationship, so they never really got married. So yeah, so the symbolism behind the Moonlight Sonata, it seems to be pretty symbolic with Beethoven's personal struggles throughout this time. So like I said earlier, this was kind of published when he was kind of like in the middle of his career, so in his 30s, and at this time his life was pretty difficult. It was known that he kind of started like losing his hearing around like his late 20s, so like around 29ish he started to lose his hearing. And yeah, I mean, while he wasn't fully deaf until he was in his 40s, he was still kind of suffering through that, like through that loss of hearing, and kind of going through like the acceptance of his deafness, which was a really big struggle on him, as he was known to kind of like want to live up to his father's expectations of being a great composer. And I guess in Beethoven's mind, to be a good composer, you can't really be deaf, right? So, yeah, so just like living up to those expectations and kind of dealing with his like new coming deafness and everything. And he also suffered with lots of other things at the time, like diseases and chronic illnesses. So this was just a difficult time for him overall, and that's why in the first movement of the Moonlight Sonata you really hear kind of like those slow pause, like not pauses, those slow and kind of like drawn out moments, and it gives like a more like emotional aspect to it. It's a little romantic and a little almost like a little sad in some sort, like in a way. But yeah, the first movement is just basically known for that, known for like kind of the emotion put into it. And we just really see that reflected with Beethoven's life and just like the personal things he was going on at the time. And finally, here are my resources. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.